Welcome to the Renaissance in Italy. We are in Chapter 10, Lesson 1, New Ideas. Essential question: how do new ideas change the way people live? Think about it. How does this question relate to the Renaissance, the scientific revolution, and the Enlightenment? What type of information would you need to know to answer this question? For example, one question might be, why are the events and ideas that occurred during these eras so significant? The Renaissance is an era that shaped who we are now. Might you be interested in new ideas about science, art, human rights? Jot down 3 additional questions that you need to answer to be able to explain the importance of these eras and their ideas. For example, you may take specific ideas from the scientific revolution or the Enlightenment to explain how their ideas have shaped us today. Okay, let's explore page 363, The Renaissance in Italy. Guiding question: why did the states of Italy become leading centers of culture during the Renaissance? Consider how COVID-19 has changed our lives and how we will feel when it is over. Now let's relate it to the Renaissance. Between 1350 and 1650, ways of thinking changed greatly in Europe. As the Black Death eased, people became more confident about the future. Their interest in learning and the arts was renewed. This new interest in culture is called the Renaissance, from the French word for rebirth. The Renaissance sparked a renewed interest in ancient Greek and Romans. European scholars improved their understanding of Greek and Latin languages, which they used to study ancient Greek and Roman writings. Europeans also adopted many Greek and Roman ideas. They began to see that individual people could make a difference. They began to believe that people could change the world for the better. What a great idea! During the Renaissance, most Europeans were still religious. However, they also began to value human efforts outside of religion. As a result, people became more secular. That is, they became more interested in worldly ideas and events, not just religious ones. This gave rise to humanism and questioning minds like Leonardo da Vinci that wanted to find out everything he could about the world. The Renaissance is born. The birthplace of the Renaissance was Italy, the heart of the old Roman Empire. The ruins and statues were familiar to Italians. Because of this, Italians readily turned to ancient examples to inspire them in their own artistic efforts. I wonder how ancient art inspired the Renaissance and how it inspires us today. Art also flourished because by the 1300s, Italian cities had become very wealthy. The leading citizens could pay painters, sculptors, and architects to produce many new works. The powerful states of Italy encouraged the Renaissance. The population of Italy was becoming more urban. That is, the people were living in cities more than the country. In other parts of Europe, most people still lived in rural areas, including the nobles who owned estates. As a result of city life, Italy began to develop a different society. Large city populations meant more discussions among people. Strong economies developed. It also meant more customers for artists and more money for a new kind of art. Like the city-states of ancient Greece, Renaissance Italy's urban society and scholars produced many great works of art and literature. Thanks to riches from trade, Italians' wealthy citizens could afford to pay artists. Italy was divided into city-states which competed against each other in who could have the best art. City-states wanted great artists to make their city-state famous. Check your understanding. Explain causes. Why did wealthy Italians support artists during the Renaissance? Determine context. How was Italy different from other areas of Europe in the 1300s? The states of Italy. Guiding question. How did Italy's states become wealthy and powerful? During the Middle Ages, Italy remained a collection of states, many of which were independent city-states. There were several reasons for this. The states of Italy did not want emperors or kings to rule them. In addition, the Catholic Church did not want a united Italy. It did not want a powerful emperor or king to control the Pope. The independent states of Italy were equally strong. They fought many wars and often took land from each other. However, no state was able to rule the others. Florence, Venice, Genoa, Milan, and Rome were some of the most important cities of the Italian Renaissance. The Renaissance began in Italy because city life was stronger there than in other parts of Europe. Above all, Italy's states were independent because of their riches. They used their wealth to build large fleets of ships. They also hired mercenaries to fight in their armies. A mercenary is a full-time soldier who fights in any army just for money. Wealthy merchants and bankers in Italy's states also loaned money to the kings of Europe. The kings left the states alone so they could borrow more money in the future. Riches from trade. The Italian states gained their wealth through trade. The long stretch of the Italian peninsula meant that many of the cities were port cities located on the coast. The Italian peninsula was the center of the Mediterranean world. The Byzantine and Ottoman empires lay to the east, and Spain and France lay to the west. North Africa was only a short distance to the south. Italy's location made trade with these regions easier. In eastern ports such as Constantinople, Italian merchants bought Chinese silk and Indian spices from Byzantine, Turkish, and Arab merchants. The Italians sold these goods in Italy and Western Europe for very high prices. Italian merchants bought wool, wine, and glass in Europe and sold them in the Middle East. Italian artisans bought raw materials and made goods to sell abroad for high prices. In addition to geography, two important events helped the Italians succeed in trade. One event was the Crusades. These conflicts brought Italian merchants into contact with Arab merchants in the Middle East. The second event was the Mongol conquests. which united much of Asia into one large trading network. The Mongols protected trade along the Silk Road. This made it easier and cheaper for caravans to carry goods between China and the Middle East. As more silk and spices were sent from Asia, the price of these goods fell. More Europeans could pay for these luxuries, and demand for the goods increased. There was still much conflict in the world during the time of the Italian Renaissance. What two important world events helped the Italians succeed in trade? How did these events help the Italians? Be able to explain how did the shift to a more secular way of life influence the Renaissance? Use a graphic organizer to identify how the characteristics of Italy influenced the Renaissance. Characteristic: Italian cities were wealthy. Characteristics: Italy was in the heart of the old Roman Empire. Characteristics: many Italians lived in cities instead of rural areas. Characteristic: stronger economies developed. We will review the answers in our next episode as we learn about Marco Polo and city-states. As they say in Italy, ciao.